The largest counterfeiting operation in modern North American history did not begin with a crime. It began with a polite phone call. Late 2008. A man in his late 30s sits at a desk in a small house in Trois-Rivieres, Quebec, 2 hours northeast of Montreal. He is not a gangster. He is not part of a cartel. He has never printed anything more illegal than a business card. In front of him is a phone, a list of specifications, and the number of a paper mill in Switzerland. He dials. When the representative picks up, he identifies himself as a private investment consultant. He says he needs a batch of specialty security paper for a corporate project. Cotton and linen blend, 75-25. No optical brighteners, embedded security thread, watermark of the company's founder, a distinguished gentleman, very important to branding. He will email the image file. The image, when it arrives, will be the face of Andrew Jackson. The representative does not flinch. The order goes through. The paper ships. And within 4 years, 12.5 million counterfeit $20 bills, 250 million United States dollars, will be moving through the banking systems of the United States and Canada, printed on the same paper the United States Treasury uses. The man's name is Frank Bourassa. He has just committed the hardest part of the entire operation. Nobody has noticed. This is the story of how a Canadian brake pad manufacturer quietly became the most prolific solo counterfeiter in recorded history. How he solved the single problem that had defeated every professional operation before him. How he flooded North America with bills so perfect that the United States Secret Service could not tell them apart without laboratory equipment. How an informant inside organized crime eventually closed the trap around him. And how, when the trap closed, he sat in a holding cell and did what he had always done best. He negotiated. By the end of this story, you will understand how a man who faced 60 years in an American federal prison walked out of a Canadian courtroom in 6 weeks, paid a fine smaller than the cost of a used car, and went on to charge banks and governments consulting fees for teaching them how to catch people exactly like him. To understand what Frank Bourassa did, you have to understand what he was running from. In the early 2000s, Bourassa owned a small company in Trois-Rivieres that manufactured brake pads for cars. It was legitimate, it was his, and it was slowly killing him. He worked 18-hour days, sometimes 20-hour days. He woke at 4 in the morning and fell asleep past midnight. He missed birthdays, he missed holidays. He missed the part of his life that existed outside of the shop. In 2004, he sold the company. He had built something. He had made money. And he had given his 30s to an industrial press that did not care whether he was alive. That was the wound, not poverty, not ambition. The quiet arithmetic of a man who had done everything right and still felt like he had been robbed of his own years. He started researching. Not investments, not new industries. He was looking for the one product that would not require him to convince anyone to buy it. A product with infinite demand, zero marketing, and no customer service. A product that sold itself the moment it existed. There was only one: money. Bourassa began reading about counterfeiting the way an engineer reads about a competitor's product. He studied the North Korean super notes that had circulated for decades inside the global banking system. He studied the Colombian cartels that printed hundreds of millions in fake 20s every year. He studied every amateur operation that had been caught, and he noticed something. They were all caught for the same reason: the paper. The United States dollar is not printed on ordinary paper. It is printed on a precise blend of 75% cotton and 25% linen, embedded with red and blue security fibers, chemical markers invisible to the naked eye, and a watermark physically molded into the sheet during manufacturing. The paper has a specific crackle when folded. It does not glow under ultraviolet light. It is supplied exclusively and lawfully by a single American mill that answers directly to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Every other counterfeiter in the world tried to approximate that paper. They bleached lower denominations. They blended stocks. They aged sheets artificially. They all failed. Bourassa read the research, closed his notebook, and arrived at a conclusion nobody in the modern history of counterfeiting had reached. He would not approximate the paper, he would order it. The call to the Swiss mill was only the first step. The watermark came separately. A few weeks later, Bourassa wired $15,000, routed through a Swiss bank account under a surrogate name, to a specialty engraving company in the German town of Düren. In exchange, the company produced a cylindrical printing drum, a metal roller etched with the portrait of Andrew Jackson in precise, microscopic, negative relief. When a sheet of cotton linen pulp passed beneath that drum during papermaking, Jackson's face would be pressed permanently into the fibers. Not printed, not dyed, embedded, indistinguishable from the watermark on every real $20 bill in circulation. None of this was illegal, not yet. Bourassa had ordered paper. He had ordered a watermark drum. He had filed paperwork for a shell corporation. Every transaction was documented, invoiced, and on its face, lawful. He was playing a seam in international commerce that nobody had thought to close. Currency-grade paper is a controlled substance inside the United States. It is simply a product everywhere else. Months later, a shipping container arrived at Canadian Customs. Bourassa sat across the lot in his car, engine off, binoculars in hand. He watched as officers moved between containers. He watched as his was lifted. And then he watched as two officers stopped it, called for documents, and read the shipping manifest line that could have ended everything before it began. The line said, "Security paper." One officer nodded. He handed the paperwork back and waved the container through. Bourassa exhaled. He drove the shipment to a warehouse he had rented under another shell name. Before unloading, he circled the container with a handheld radio frequency detector, moving slowly, listening for the soft tone that would indicate a hidden transmitter in the walls. He found nothing. He cut the customs seal and opened the first box. Inside were industrial rolls of cotton linen stock, embedded with security thread, watermarked with Andrew Jackson's face. What was still missing was the part the world calls counterfeiting. He had every legal ingredient. Now he had to commit the act. Bourassa spent the better part of a year building a print shop that could match the United States Treasury. He bought a Heidelberg 4-color offset press for roughly 125,000 Canadian dollars. He bought a second, smaller Heidelberg for test runs. He acquired plate-making equipment, an industrial paper cutter, 2 platen presses for embossing and foil application, and a custom rig for the serial numbering stage. Total cost, by later estimates, about $325,000. He assembled most of it himself in a hidden industrial space, piece by piece, sourced from different addresses so no single supplier could see the full picture. He hired a graphic designer. He told the designer it was a movie prop job. He paid the designer to produce digital files that reconstructed every element of a modern $20 bill at micrometer resolution. The files included microprinting that reads as a thin line to the naked eye, the intaglio raised texture on Andrew Jackson's portrait, and the color-shifting ink that turns from copper to green when the bill is tilted. He sourced specialty inks through legitimate channels, identifying chemical equivalents to the proprietary formulations used by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. He ran test prints at night. He studied them under microscopes. He compared them to real bills. He adjusted. He reprinted. He burned every failure. For months, he produced nothing but flawed bills, studied them like a pathologist reading tissue samples, and tried again. Then one night in the early spring of 2009, he held a bill up to a lamp. The watermark glowed. The color-shifting ink shifted. The raised portrait caught his fingernail. He drew a counterfeit detection pen, the yellow marker every cashier in North America uses, across the surface. The stroke turned yellow, the response that signals real currency. He drove to a gas station 20 miles away at 2 in the morning. He bought a pack of gum. He paid with the bill. The cashier held it to the light, rubbed it between her fingers, rang up the sale, and handed him $19.12 in genuine United States change. Frank Bourassa had done what the United States Secret Service believed to be nearly impossible. He had produced a $20 bill that survived the first line of defense in the field. He drove home with the change still in his pocket. His girlfriend was asleep when he walked in. He stood in the doorway and watched her for a moment. She had no idea what he had just done. She had no idea what the next 4 years of her life were about to become. He closed the bedroom door, went to his study, and began making notes on where to acquire more ink. Now he had to find people willing to buy a product that could put them in a federal cell for the rest of their lives. Printing money is only half the problem. If Bourassa spent his own bills at gas stations and department stores, patterns would form. Surveillance cameras would place him in the same 5-mile radius. A single cashier with a good memory would close the investigation. He needed wholesale distribution, and wholesale distribution of counterfeit currency is a business that exists inside organized crime. Bourassa was not organized crime. He was a white-collar manufacturer with a soft Quebec accent, khakis, and a briefcase. His entire career had been built on boardroom handshakes and supplier contracts. Now he was walking into parking garages at 11 at night to sell counterfeit currency to men who solved their business disputes with gunfire. The first meeting was in Montreal. Bourassa showed up looking, by his own later description, like somebody's accountant. The men waiting for him had tattoos up their necks and the kind of eyes that had seen what the inside of a prison looks like from both directions. One of them leaned forward and told him, in level tones, that if the product was garbage, they would come back and find him. It was not a threat. It was a statement of fact. Bourassa handed over samples. The buyers tested them at banks, at casinos, at high-end retailers. The bills passed. Every single one. The price was 30 cents on the dollar. 30,000 real dollars bought $100,000 in near-perfect 20s. The margin for a mid-level distributor was 3-to-1 before the bills ever entered the street economy. Word traveled fast inside the underground. There was a guy in Quebec, quiet, reliable, white-collar, who made 20s that nobody could catch. Bourassa started taking meetings in hotel rooms with cartel middlemen, in the back offices of strip clubs with biker associates, in the parking lots of shopping malls with men whose names he never asked. He ran the operation the way he had run his brake pad company. Consistent quality, reliable delivery, customer retention. The same instincts that had made him a good manufacturer made him, now, a better criminal than most lifelong criminals ever become. He was not thrilled by the danger. He was annoyed by the overhead. By 2010, Bourassa's print shop was producing $20 bills in volume the United States had not seen from a single individual in living memory. 12.5 million notes. $250 million in face value, moving slowly and quietly into the real economy of North America. The Secret Service had a problem. They just did not know whose problem it was yet. At a forensic laboratory inside Secret Service headquarters in Washington, an analyst sat at a comparison microscope and looked at two $20 bills side by side. She had been doing this work for more than a decade. Most counterfeits revealed themselves within seconds. Wrong paper weight, blurred microprinting, ink that sat on the surface instead of biting into it. She could spot an amateur job the way a watchmaker spots a cheap replica, intuitively, within a heartbeat, without quite being able to explain why. This bill was different. The paper was correct. The fiber blend was correct. The watermark was embedded, not printed. The security thread behaved correctly under ultraviolet light. By every standard test used in the field, the bill should have passed as genuine. And yet, at high magnification, something was wrong. The intaglio printing on Jackson's portrait was crisp, but the ink was sitting on the paper rather than being pressed into it. It was the difference between an engraving and a photograph of an engraving. Nearly invisible, completely damning. She added the bill to a growing file. By the end of the year, the file had a name. Internally, the Secret Service had begun tracking tens of millions of dollars in bills they classified as near perfect. They knew someone was flooding the market. They did not know who. They did not know where. They knew only that the bills did not cluster like amateur operations. There were no geographic patterns, no signatures, no mistakes. Somewhere in North America, a professional had solved a problem nobody else had solved. He had solved it well enough that if the Secret Service did not find him soon, he would never need to print another bill. The break came not from forensics. It came from distribution. One of Bourassa's clients had been compromised. A stolen equipment dealer, moving product inside an organized crime network, was already cooperating with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on an unrelated case. When investigators realized he was connected to the near-perfect 20s, they redirected everything. They gave him a new assignment. They told him to introduce them to his supplier. March 2012, a coffee shop in Montreal. Bourassa walks in, scans the room, sits. Across from him is a man who looks, talks, and handles himself the way the rest of Bourassa's clients do. The man says his people have heard about the product. They would like to test it. $100,000 in counterfeit 20s. If the quality holds, a much larger order will follow. Something about the meeting does not sit right. Bourassa cannot name it. Maybe the eye contact was half a second too steady. Maybe the buyer asked one question that a real distributor would not have asked. Maybe nothing was wrong at all. And after 3 years inside a criminal economy, he was simply looking for ghosts. He tells himself he is being paranoid. He agrees to the buy. The first transaction happens in a shopping mall parking lot. Bourassa hands over a duffel bag of fake 20s. The buyer checks a sample under an ultraviolet light. The security thread glows correctly. The exchange takes under a minute. They drive away in opposite directions. The next day, the buyer calls back. The product is perfect. He needs another $100,000. Same terms. Tomorrow. What Bourassa does not know is that the buyer is an undercover officer, that the transaction was recorded from 3 angles, and that a helicopter is already tracking his vehicle by the time he leaves the lot. What Bourassa does not know is that police are following him home. What Bourassa does not know is that the raid has already been scheduled. He has exactly 3 weeks of freedom left. At 5 o'clock on the morning of May 23rd, 2012, 12 officers in tactical gear move through pre-dawn darkness around a small house on the outskirts of Trois-Rivieres. Bourassa is asleep inside, next to his girlfriend. The battering ram takes the door in a single swing. Boots thunder on hardwood. Within seconds, Bourassa is face down on the bedroom floor, hands cuffed behind his back, a rifle barrel near his head. In the garage, investigators find the printing equipment. In the basement, rolls of paper. In a closet, bundles of $20 bills wrapped in plastic. They count quickly, just under $1 million in near-perfect counterfeit currency. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the United States Secret Service have just made the largest counterfeiting bust in modern Canadian history. They are convinced they have found the whole operation. They have found less than 1% of it. Bourassa is charged. The United States files an extradition request. If he is handed to American authorities, he faces federal charges carrying 46 to 60 years. For a man in his early 40s, that is a life sentence with arithmetic attached. The Secret Service wants him in a federal courtroom. Their case is strong. Their patience is long. In a holding cell in Quebec, Bourassa leans forward to his lawyer and says something that will change the entire trajectory of the prosecution. There is another stash, approximately $200 million in counterfeit 20s, hidden at a location known only to him. If he is extradited, the bills find their way into circulation over the next decade. If he is prosecuted aggressively, he takes the location to prison with him. If Canada wants that money off the street, there is a price. Minimal prison time, no extradition. The lawyer relays the offer. The prosecutors verify it. Bourassa leads investigators to a storage facility outside Montreal. The officers open a door. They do not speak. Boxes are stacked to the ceiling. Each box contains bundles of near-perfect $20 bills. The final count, after days of work, is roughly $200 million in face value. Printing plates, digital files, technical specifications, everything the government would need to understand and prevent operations exactly like his. The same information that had made him dangerous now made him valuable. In Quebec's Superior Court, Frank Bourassa pleads guilty to reduced charges. Full cooperation, $200 million in counterfeit currency removed from the supply chain. No extradition. The judge sentences him to time served, roughly 6 weeks, and a fine of approximately $1,500 for a small quantity of cannabis found in the house during the raid. Someone in the courtroom laughs and catches themselves. Bourassa's girlfriend sat through part of the proceedings. She was no longer wearing a wedding band she had once talked about. She did not look at him when the sentence was read. At one point, during a recess, their eyes met across the courtroom. She appeared to be waiting for something, an explanation, an apology, some gesture that acknowledged that she had woken up one morning with a rifle in her bedroom because of a decision he had made alone. The gesture did not come. By the following week, she was gone from his life entirely. Bourassa walks out a free man. The house seized during the raid was part of what he negotiated back. Their relationship, which had not been his to negotiate, was not. The deal had worked. Not everything a man loses can be recovered by a signature. Today, Frank Bourassa wears a tailored suit and carries a business card that reads Security Consultant. He sits across boardroom tables from the same kinds of institutions his bills once fooled. He speaks at conferences. He consults for banks. He was the subject of a Vice documentary, a Darknet Diaries episode, a Guinness World Record entry, and a memoir titled The Moneymaker that he wrote with a Canadian journalist. He is, by his own account, making more per keynote than he ever made selling brake pads. Entry to the United States is permanently closed to him. Inside Canada, he is legal, taxed, and in demand. He began this story looking for a shortcut, a way out of the 18-hour days, a way to beat the quiet arithmetic of a life spent building something for someone else. He found the shortcut. He built a product with infinite demand. He flooded 2 countries with it. He got caught. And when he got caught, he used the same instincts that had made him a manufacturer to negotiate his way back out the door. The man who wanted to beat the system became the system's consultant. The skills did not change, only the invoice. And somewhere in a Swiss archive, there is still a paper order, filed and forgotten, from a polite Canadian gentleman who said he needed cotton linen stock for a corporate bond project. Nobody ever asked a second question. They never had to. If this is the kind of story you want more of, the ones that were never supposed to leave the file, subscribe. It's how we keep finding them.